The Bhagavad Gita opens with Arjuna declaring that he won't fight. What is of importance is not just that Arjuna has laid down his arms and has declared he won't fight. What he says about the Kshatriya women and his fear that they might mingle with the other Varnas. Krishna listens to whatever Arjuna has to say. Arjuna is resistant, just as we are. Action is not important. Gyan is wonderful. You gave me so much Gyan and I am elated. Do you see what Arjuna is doing? Don't you see how this entire society runs away? Even the biggest idiot in the world is wise enough when it comes to this. The Gita is dangerous. You see, today we say that the Gita is repeatedly misinterpreted. Your elders will come and say, you have understood so much, now get up and do something. As if the right action would depend on provocation or motivation. Gita scoffs at motivation. Gita says, Nishkamna, Nishkam karma. If you find yourself stuck, don't just push yourself to act. Look within. See where the clutter really is. Life is beautiful when so Krishna has just completed one long round of discourse on the Sankhya Yoga. Emphasizing how it's really important to know who you are and let your action flow from there. 72 verses of undistilled wisdom. That's what Arjuna has just passed through. And that is chapter 2. And obviously the Gita starts with Arjuna declaring in chapter 1 that he won't fight because he has reasons in favor of not fighting arising from his physical and social identities, and deep cultural beliefs. That's how the Bhagavad Gita opens. And now we are at the opening of chapter 3. The Bhagavad Gita opens with Arjuna declaring that he won't fight. But that's not very important. In itself, no action is important, no decision is important. Arjuna says, I won't fight. And that might be a wonderful thing in itself. In some other context, an Arjuna may say, I will fight. That too might be a wonderful thing to say. Action in itself isn't right or wrong, good or bad. What is of concern in chapter 1 is not Arjun's decision per se, but the basis of his decisions. So as we just said, his decisions are coming from his inner bondages, his cultural beliefs, his social identities, his self-ignorance. That's where his words and the decision to not to fight are coming from. And in front of him, along with him, is Sri Krishna. No wise man is ever interested in dictating somebody's actions. Sri Krishna does not really have a set agenda with respect to Arjuna. Not that Krishna's will must be foisted upon Arjuna. Not that Arjuna must be somehow convinced or pushed to carry out Krishna's decision. No, that is not really the objective. To repeat, no wise man is ever interested in having somebody do his bidding. What is of concern, however, to the wise man is the center of the other's thoughts, emotions, decisions, and actions. Therefore, what is of importance in chapter 1 is not just that Arjuna has laid down his arms, the Gandiv, and has declared he won't fight. No, that is of secondary importance. What would have really piqued, concerned, disappointed Krishna is where Arjun's decision was coming from. And so, what Arjun says in favor of his decision has to be carefully read. And Arjun makes it amply clear his decision is coming from attachment, ignorance, delusion, and cultural conditioning. We all remember what he says about the Varn Sankars, what he says about the Kshatriya women and his fear that they might mingle with the other Varnas. And then his belief that the souls of the ancestors need to be annually pleased with offerings, and those offerings can only come from an offspring rightly born which a Varn Sankar is not. So, quite eloquently, he elaborates that the war should not happen, else the Kshatriya woman would go corrupt, and the mingling between Varnas should not happen. All these things he is saying. And that is what really would concern Sri Krishna. This web of unfounded beliefs, a particular attitude towards the other gender, belief that bodies are born different, and that one's body decides one's identity in the form of gender or varna, and a lot of superstition regarding the soul wandering here and there, and the soul itself believing in accepting offerings only from an ancestor born from the right kind of match. These are very serious indicators of a deluded inner state. Getting it? And it is this state that must be challenged and changed. Not that Arjun's decision to not to fight has to be reversed. No. Arjun's inner state of darkness and blind belief has to be challenged. That has to be understood. Otherwise, it will look so much like the case of one man pushing his own agenda through the other. And so many people, they come up and say Krishna wanted the war, so he brainwashed Arjuna, and that's the Gita. Yes, there are people who look at the whole thing this way, but it is not this way. The wise man, I repeat, would not be interested in a particular action. He is self-assured. He has faith. He knows that if you are inwardly right, then anyway the right action would come from you. So he is not bothered about the action coming from you. He is bothered about your state, inward state. His job is to inwardly illuminate you and leave you free. Now that you have your own light and your own eyes, act on your own. Who am I to dictate terms to you or hold you as you walk? Who am I to even show the way to you? Not needed. Your eyes, your light, your life. You walk. Right? So inner illumination is the key, and that's the reason Straight away, Sri Krishna begins with Sankhya Yoga, chapter 2. Because inner darkness is the problem in chapter 1. Hence, immediately comes the solution in the form of inner illumination. Arjun's problem superficially is that he won't fight in the battlefield, and he started shivering, grown cold feet, and he's saying, no, I'm going away. I can't kill my kith and kin, and no, I'm not up for this. Apparently that is the problem. But when a Krishna looks at the situation, it is not a particular action that is ever the primary problem. The primary problem is always the actor, not a specific action. The primary problem is always the actor, not a specific action. However, actions must be noted, actions must be observed, because it is through the action that we come to know of the actor. Otherwise, how will you know of the actor? The actor can't be seen in any other way. No eyes, no X-ray, no MRI, no scan can show you the actor, can it? No. How do you detect the state of the actor? By carefully observing the actions. So that way, actions are indeed important. They'll tell you of the actor. But actions otherwise, by themselves, are only of secondary importance. What is of primary importance is the state of the actor. So chapter 1, it is discovered that the actor is in a problematic state. And how is that discovered? By noticing his actions. My skin is burning, legs are shivering, and he comes up with fantastic reasons, one after the other, in favor of not fighting. So Krishna listens to whatever Arjuna has to say. In chapter 1, do you find Krishna speaking? No. Very keenly, he is just listening, just observing what Arjuna has to say. Chapter 1, Sri Krishna is silent. It's a lesson in observation. When you're observing, when you're listening, just be silent. And it is from this silence that the Bhagavad Gita then explodes. Chapter 2 onwards. Chapter 1, Sri Krishna doesn't speak at all, just listens. Just listens. That is observation. Observation. Don't interfere. Don't put yourself in between. Just see. Just see what is going on. Very silently. Just see. And that's what is done in chapter 1. That's chapter 1. The state of the actor is revealed through his actions. And then chapter 2 is the science of the actor, Sankhya Yoga. The yoga of knowledge, self-knowledge. Knowing what you are not. The distinction between Purush and Prakriti. And we have gone through those 72 verses in decent detail. Fine. So chapter 2 insists that the actor is of paramount importance. Knowing the actor, self-knowledge is very, very important. Right? Doesn't talk of action at all. Because that's the very mark of wisdom. Not to focus too much on the action. So Sri Krishna is not focusing much on the action. He is not saying Arjun this, that, whatever. He is saying more important than action is the actor. More important than action is the actor. In other words, more important than action is self-knowledge, because that's how you know the actor. More important than action is self-knowledge. That's what Sri Krishna is saying. Because he wants Arjun to turn inwards. Arjun's problem is that he does not know where he is speaking from, deciding from, seeing from. So constantly he is telling Arjun, a very important thing, most important thing rather, is knowing yourself. That is the most important thing. Please look at yourself. Please look at yourself. Turn inwards. That's the essence of chapter 2. Arjun is resistant, just as we are. Right? And Arjun seems, at least till this point, much better off than us, because he has only received chapter 2 till now. Several of us have gone through the entire 18 chapters many times over and still stick to our old self. Poor Arjun has received just one chapter, that too in the middle of deep inner emotional ignorance. So the chapter doesn't seem to succeed much with Arjun. Hence chapter 3 opens in a very queer way. Arjun says, 72 verses, all that you have said is that Gyan is very important. Gyan refers to self-knowledge, Atma-Gyan. We are not talking of worldly knowledge here, science or politics or sociology. That is not being discussed. So now look at Arjun's argument. It says, last whatever, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 1 week, we don't know the exact duration, how it happened. But you have emphasized so much on knowledge, Gyan. And you are saying Gyan is paramount. Gyan is wonderful. Gyan is the number one thing. Self-knowledge, Atma-Gyan. And then comes the spin. Look at how the ego works. It can co-opt anything. Arjun says, if Gyan, as you say, is indeed the highest thing, why are you pushing me to act? So Gyan is great, and action. You are anyway saying that the wise man does not care too much for action. Now this war means action. That's exactly what I'm saying. Action is not important. Gyan is wonderful. You gave me so much Gyan and I am elated, and now let's go back and have some tea or something and chill somewhere. Do you see what Arjuna is doing? Sri Krishna doesn't have an agenda when it comes to action. But Arjuna does have an agenda when it comes to action. What's his agenda? I will not act. I will not fight. Therefore, he is not even open to listening He's dug a trench and positioned himself there, like soldiers do, with his weapons. And he's saying, I have to be stationed here, and anybody who's seen around is an enemy. I won't be displaced. I'm safe only in the trench. I won't be displaced, and I'll shoot down anything I see or anybody. I'll shoot down. So that's what he's saying. He is settled in the one conclusion he has made. I will not fight. And where is that conclusion coming from? His old cultural beliefs and inner ignorance. We know all that. So he's dead set. I will not fight. And to defend that position, he will do whatever he has to do. That's the ego. To defend itself, it can come up with any argument. It can misutilize even sacred words. You see, today we say that the Gita is repeatedly misinterpreted. Right? But it's not that that is something very new or recent. That will always happen. Because the ego, first of all, wants to defend and protect itself. Therefore, anything that is coming its way with the capacity to dissolve it, defeat it, has to be put down. Look what even Arjuna is doing. It's not that misinterpretation of Krishna's words has started only today or recently. Look what Arjuna is doing. Arjuna is doing the same thing. See what Sri Krishna said in chapter 2 and how Arjuna is interpreting it. So misinterpretation has already started. Even when the Gita has yet not been fully revealed. The discourse has just begun and the misinterpretation has already started. And the first one is Arjuna. First one is Arjuna. 3.1 is that. Arjuna says, if Gyan is superior to action, then why are you engaging me in this horrible action, O Keshav? If Gyan is superior to action, yes, throughout chapter 2, you have said just one thing. Self-knowledge is the topmost thing. And I have agreed. Yes, self-knowledge is the topmost thing. We'll go sit somewhere and gather self-knowledge. Why do we need weapons? Then comes the accusation, the blame. Look at the brazenness of the declaration. You are confusing my thoughts and my intellect with contradictory words. First thing, you speak things that contradict each other. You are not consistent. Secondly, you are trying to confuse me. You don't sound like a friend or a well-wisher. And if you are a well-wisher, then tell me with certainty only the one path of welfare. Do not tell me so many things. Otherwise, you are just confusing me with too many contradictory ideas. And the first contradiction is in the first verse itself. That on one hand you say, Gyan is wonderful. On the other hand, you are saying, now fight. Gyan is wonderful, so we will just go and accumulate knowledge like scholars do. Why should I be a warrior? Right? Why shoot at people? No. That's how the ego acts. It can co-opt anything. Krishna's words are being used against Krishna. Whenever you find the teacher's words being used against the teacher, know that you have a deep set ignorant agenda. And you are very stubborn. You cannot openly resist the teacher for some reason. Therefore, you are picking up bits and pieces of the teacher's words and twisting them, spinning them to suit your ignorant narrative. Otherwise, why would somebody distort a beautiful work like Gita? And we see that distortion all around us today, don't we? Everywhere the Gita stands distorted. Why would somebody do that? The reason is simple. If the Gita is not distorted, then this distorted thing called the ego will be shown a mirror. Either the Gita has to be distorted or the ego will have to give up its distortions. The ego won't give up its distortions. It will remain a convoluted mass full of knots, complexities. It will remain that way. Therefore, it cannot tolerate the simplicity, cleanliness, and directness of the Gita. So what will the ego do with the Gita? Distort the Gita so much that it starts looking like itself. It's like, because I am ugly, therefore when you come to me, I feel all the more ashamed and pressured to wipe my face. So I have found a solution. When you will come to me, I'll splash your face with mud or something so that you become as ugly as I am, or maybe uglier than me. That's how we treat works of beauty and wisdom. We destroy them so that they now appear no better than our own destroyed life. Otherwise, chapter 2 is a master class in clarity and simplicity. One probably does not even need the subsequent chapters. Chapter 2 in itself would suffice. A brilliant work, an Upanishad in itself. And that's the typical signature and even the length of an Upanishad. Deals with knowledge and keeps it brief. That's chapter 2 Sankhya Yoga. Dealing with knowledge and just 72 brief verses, that's all. Chapter 2 in itself, on its own merit, is an independent Upanishad, a major Upanishad. Sri Krishna should not have needed to elaborate any further. But we all must heartfully thank Arjun. No? Had he not resisted so much, we wouldn't have had the 18 chapters. It is because of Arjun's resistance that the Gita kept taking width, elaboration. Otherwise, 5, 10, 20 verses suffice, provided you have the intent to listen and learn. You getting it? Just that I suppose Krishna might have been bored at many points. The rest of the Gita is actually a repetition of chapter 2. What needed to be said has been already said, and beautifully said. The highest knowledge has already been delivered. But you want to resist, so okay, fine, if not this way, then listen to this way. Okay, now we'll talk of Nishkam Karma Yoga, now we'll talk of Vibhuti Yoga, now we will talk of that yoga. What? Yoga simply means ego attains its dissolution. How can there be 18 types of yogas? But it is to keep Arjuna engaged, that we find one chapter flowing after the other. Can you see what is really happening there? The highest knowledge has already been imparted, but the ego won't take it, would resist it, would distort it, deliberately misinterpret it. When the teacher is speaking, the student would almost deliberately start thinking of something else, or even fall asleep. All that is not just coincidental. There is at least a subconscious agreement to the sleep or to the distraction. Because if you manage to listen, then there will be consequences. You know that there would be consequences. So you make an internal arrangement. How to avoid the Gita. That's the name of the arrangement. It's a plan. How to avoid the Gita. Or if you cannot avoid it, then how to misinterpret it. First thing is to miss it. That's the best case scenario for the ego. Miss it. And if you cannot miss it, then misinterpret it. Are we talking about Arjun here or the Gita community? Miss it. And if you can't miss it, then misinterpret it. Because if you make yourself available, it's going to be dangerous. You may not know anything in the world. You may not know anything about yourself. But one thing you know of very well. The Gita is dangerous. Even the biggest idiot in the world is wise enough when it comes to this. Don't you see how your family members run away? Don't you see how this entire society runs away? If they run away, they are idiots. But the fact that they can clearly identify danger proves that they are not total idiots. They know which direction danger is coming from. They know Gita is dangerous. You also know Gita is dangerous. It's not verse 3.1 and 3.2. It's our life. It's not that battlefield. It's this battlefield. It's about you and me here. We are not dealing with a historical document. This is a mirror of the present as it is. And it takes something to be a teacher. Since you visualize so much, try this one. 72 verses of the highest quality and the purest essence have just been showered upon a lucky recipient, Arjuna. And what does the teacher get from him? You are confusing me. You're confusing me. And don't you see, Mr. Teacher, that your words are self-contradictory? On one hand, you say knowledge is superior. On the other hand, you are saying, no, we must fight. Don't you have some sense? Even I can see that. That's the student's ego. The one who cannot respect his own potential, how will he or she respect the teacher? Therefore, the teacher is not really disappointed. The teacher very well knows that a reluctant student can offer only superficial respect. So it is not a matter of great surprise when a student actually displays lack of understanding, appreciation, or respect. Because that was bound to be. When the student is driven by the ego, then any respect the student displays to the teacher is superficial, and therefore the teacher takes it very lightly. The teacher knows that on the surface, yes, you are saying, yes, I listen to you, you are great, and you will be my guide. But deep within, you have already decided your guide. Your guide is your ego. You will not listen to me. Or you will listen to me only to distort my words. Getting it? Now, the framework Arjuna is coming from is knowledge versus action. Knowledge versus action. So he's saying one of these has to be superior. And so coming from this framework, Arjuna says, since, O Keshav, you have declared the primacy of knowledge, hence it seems even more justified now to shun action. Behind Arjun's words is some kind of a philosophy. The philosophy says Gyan Yoga versus Karma Yoga. The philosophy says there are two kinds of people, knowers and doers. Knowers and doers. Pop philosophy. That kind of distinction people hold even today. The common man on the street, he would speak in these terms. No? There are some who just keep thinking, and then there are those who act. So that distinction broadly is thought to exist between knowledge and action. And Arjun is partaking in that. But had he listened carefully to chapter 2, he would have realized that knowledge and action are not two separate directions or dimensions. That all action must come from knowledge. That's the reason we said that the wise ones do not care too much about action. They care about wisdom, knowledge, self-knowledge. What is the principle at work? If you know who you are, the right action will happen by itself. You don't have to worry or plan. So don't bother so much about the action. Be very keen to know the actor. And once you know the actor, action will happen. Don't worry. Exactly the right action will happen. Beyond planning, beyond imagination, beyond tradition, beyond repetition, the right action will happen. Unimaginably fresh and vigorous right action will happen, provided the actor knows himself. So that's the whole point of the Bhagavad Gita. Know yourself and then let the action happen. But this demands deep inner wisdom. And if that is not there, then your action will come from that fragmented place within called the ego. Getting it? You'll be fragmented. You'll be thinking of one thing, doing the other thing, planning of one thing, proceeding for a while and then dropping the idea. You'll feel committed towards an action, and then somebody comes and utters a few words and you say, no, this looks like a bad idea. Let's get into something else. Does that happen with you? You will commit to not fighting and end up fighting. You will commit to not eating and end up eating. Or you will commit to gymming and end up snoring. Or you will commit to listening to the sessions and find yourself something else. That's when your actions do not come from understanding. If your actions come from ego, they will never have vigor, consistency, power, purity. Because the ego in itself is a fragmented thing. What is the ego? The ego is like a doormat. You do not know who all stamped their feet on it. Think of a doormat at some public place. A doormat in front of a shop or a government office. Who all spoiled it? Can't even count. That's who the ego is. A collection of 10,000 kinds of imprints, and all these imprints are impurities. The ego is a collection of impurities coming from 1,000 places, and even all these impurities fight among each other. Therefore, the ego can never walk set and straight in one direction. Your boss is influencing you, so you'll walk in one direction. Then your mother influences you another direction. Then your gods influence you some other direction. Then hunger or lust influence you, so some other direction. That's who the ego is, having no life of its own. Therefore, the opposite of the ego is Atma. What is Atma? Of its own. That's the literal meaning of Atma. Not collected from elsewhere, not borrowed from hither thither, not fragmented, but of its own. That's Atma. The ego is like the collection of clothes that you often find against those walls of mercy. Have you seen one of those? There are walls of mercy or walls of compassion. Neki ki diwal, they would write. Yeah. So they'll say, all and sundry come and put whatever you can. Right? So after a while, you will have 200, 300 different kinds of garment pieces there. What kind of consistency can you expect? Color, fabric, design, variety, type. Can anything be consistent? That's what is about the ego. A collection of everything from everywhere. And what kind of thing? Discarded things, rubbish things, spoiled things, impurities, nonsense collected from everywhere. That is what the ego is. First thing, nonsense. Second, everywhere. Not just nonsense coming from one direction, nonsense coming from every direction. 40,000 things coalesce, gel together and become the ego. And they gel together only superficially. Inwardly, they keep squabbling. Therefore, the ego always has 10,000 fluid identities. And these identities fight with each other. Your identity as a wife will not easily reconcile with your identity as a professional. Now these two identities will fight. What can you do? Are you getting it? But when it comes to wisdom, there is just one identity and therefore no infighting. That one identity comes from self-knowledge. And when there is no infighting, then there is clear and vigorous action. Therefore, one does not even worry about action. One worries only about inner clarity. Once that inner clarity is there, action follows. Clarity cuts through the crowd and the clutter. No crowd, no fragmentation, no chaos. Direct action. But Arjun has not gathered that, because we know when Sri Krishna was speaking, Arjun was busy digging the trench. And that's what we inwardly do. When the teacher is speaking, we are found busy digging trenches to defend ourselves. So he opens chapter 3 with this. And I'm asking you to visualize the disappointment of the teacher. Are you getting it? Knowing and doing must never be two things. Knowing and doing, being and doing, they must be one. And if knowing is real, then knowing and doing are in fact always one. Knowing is the seed, doing is the blossoming. Are you getting it? So whenever you come up with gems like, yes, I've understood, but I still fail at crucial moments, then you are bullshitting. If you find yourself failing in action, then kindly don't claim credit for wisdom. If you can't act rightly, the simple reason is you don't know rightly. Because knowing becomes effortless doing. There are these pop axioms. Knowing it is easy, but doing requires a lot of concentrated effort. Another piece of, let's be more diverse in species selection. Horse shit. Otherwise, we'll be like the animal lovers who love the animals so much, but only one particular species they love. So why should we torment just the poor bull? Now we are more inclusive. The horse is in. Are you getting it? Stop all that. Yes, knowing is so cheap. It is in the doing that the real effort and bravery and whatever is needed. Sorry, sir. In fact, doing is effortless. Once you know, you cannot help but do. If you have to exert yourself in the doing, that means you lack in the knowing. Effortlessness is the key. I'm not talking of physical effort. I'm talking of internal effort, the effort that you need in the form of willpower. Have you wondered why you keep singing paeans to things like willpower? It is because you are internally divided. That's why you need willpower. The wise man laughs at things like willpower, ichha shakti. Stupid, very stupid. What is willpower? Nothing. A trick of the ego. You don't need willpower, you need clarity. If you need willpower, then you are internally divided. Don't use that willpower. Simply sit down and try to understand what's going on. The right action will never happen through willpower. The right action happens through clarity. That's the deep message of the highest wisdom down the ages. Or your elders will come and say, "You have understood so much, now get up and do something." As if the right action would depend on provocation or wait for a trigger or motivation. I have understood everything, but please somebody come and motivate me so that I may, now rise into action. Willpower, motivation, they all belong to the same category. Same category. You can colorfully name that category by including a few more species. And it is a sign of a very ignorant society that we put so much emphasis on words like willpower and motivation. Gita scoffs at motivation. Motivation means kamna. Gita says nishkamna, nishkam karma. Getting it? If you find yourself stuck, jammed, choked, don't just push yourself to act. Look within. See where the clutter really is. Life is beautiful when you are inwardly clear. You don't have to find inner battles then. The outer battle in Bhagavad Gita is not very significant. The Bhagavad Gita is a treatise on dealing with inner battles. And with clarity, you realize you were always a winner. That there is really no battle to even fight. That is clarity. Think it. If you have been with the Gita sessions for even 3 months and not been able to see through the nonsense contained in concepts of motivation and willpower, then you have not been listening. You haven't been writing reflections, you haven't been attending the exams. You have just been sleepwalking through the months. And we have thousands of members here on the community who are sleepwalking through the Gita sessions. They'll say, we have spent 2 years here, 3 years here. And then one day they'll go totally frustrated and say, we have spent so much time. And we just saw, we have learned nothing. Sir, it is not about learning, it is about unlearning. You have to drop something. You have to see a lot within yourself as false. You cannot just sit and listen and accumulate knowledge and hope to be delivered. You'll have to ask yourself, what is it that you are leaving behind? What are you dropping? How have you reduced? If you are not reducing, if you are carrying your old concepts, if willpower was an important word to you 5 years back and it still is, then you haven't listened to me or the Gita.